I think 2011 will be looked back on as the year that almost every movie they intended to be Oscar-worthy totally wasn't.
I know, right? I kept thinking during this movie, I was like, so when is she going to start cooking? I kept thinking, I was like, this is about Julia Childs, right? The Iron Lady, a.k.a. Iron Chef. I mean, right? Is this exactly? And then I realized, no, it's not.
Well, that's the appeal, of course. It's like anytime you put Meryl Streep in anything where it's obviously going to be an acting challenge, you're like, okay, if anybody can do it, it's fucking Meryl Streep. I mean, she's Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
She's
Right,
like,
sure.
when people go, who's the best actress in America? Like, probably 8 out of 10 people would raise their hand and go, yeah, it's Meryl Streep.
Yeah, either Meryl Streep or Mina Suvari.
Yeah.
But
Wait,
for a little while, she was the only actress out there in Hollywood.
Yeah, do you remember when that was the case? Everyone else either kind of just fallen from grace. Like, it's like, what happened to Jessica Lange and Sissy Spacek? Well, yeah, exactly. You're like, Meryl Streep still plugging away at it.
Yeah.
And this year winning the Meryl Streep Award for Best
For
Actress.
being Meryl Streep.
for being better than Meryl Streep.
And the thing is, it's a shame, this movie, The Iron Lady, where she plays the British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, the British Reagan, basically.
Yeah.
That it's a dead-on impression.
Nobody
role.
could have done better.
Nobody could have done better.
It's amazing.
It's a shame that the movie's not really worth watching.
I know.
Other than her performance.
That's
in
what
it.
kills you, because honestly, this was one of the movies I was most excited about seeing.
Absolutely.
Because I grew up in the time of Margaret Thatcher, so I knew about a lot of the controversial shit she was involved in, and I was like, I want to see a movie, a good biopic that shows the controversial stuff, the good stuff, how she came to power, how that ended, all these things, the relationship between Britain and the U.S. Because you're right. She was the British Reagan at the time, except she was a woman. She was an Iron Lady. She was a hard ass. Some people loved her, a lot of people hated her. This movie's all over the fucking place.
It is, because her character in this movie is all over the place. I mean, you learn that from the get-go that, okay, this is, at least they're introducing Margaret Thatcher when she's, like, losing her mind.
Yeah.
And then the movie pretty much takes you on that ride with everything she's seeing. It brings, like, little snippets of her past. And the thing is that you're thinking, okay, well, I'd rather have the biopic than this fragmented, tale of her just remembering shit randomly.
It's startlingly similar in structure to J. Edgar in the way that they decided to tell his story with like a much older character who is kind of confused, except in here she's not just confused.
Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine,
she's got full on dementia.
Can you imagine the pitch meeting for this? Okay, It's the story of Margaret Thatcher with Meryl Streep, who's hallucinating wildly. And we learn the story through her conversations with her dead husband and these hallucinations she has as she confuses realities. I'm like, all right, Mr. Gilliam, that's great, but this isn't Terry Gilliam where you'd expect something like that, where that might actually work from a director like this. This is brought to us by, I don't know how to say her name, Felita Lloyd, who brought us the Mamma Mia film.
Wow, is that right?
Which I can only imagine
Okay.
she went to Margaret Thatcher to pitch it to her, knowing that she's like, her brain is gone already. So she's going to sign away and just let them do whatever they want.
Well, that explains things, because here's a case of an important project falling to somebody into the lap of somebody who was not up to the challenge at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, you talk about a Terry Gilliam movie, the thing, there's a certain way we're describing it that might make somebody go like, ooh, I'd like to see that. And it's like, well, I would tell you not to, because they found a way to leave out everything interesting about Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, easily.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, it is definitely a criticism-heavy piece. In fact, her children, of course, have come out saying, look, y'all didn't even mention some of the good stuff she did do.
Yeah.
But which I'm not as familiar with Thatcher's whole, history in office as obviously probably the British citizenry are. I mean, like, it wasn't something that we had to deal with on a regular basis, except for when she was openly involved with something Reagan was doing, which was admittedly pretty often. They were compatriots. But here, all of that stuff, all the history, the period of time, the tumultuous things happening in England just seems so bland and uninteresting the way the film deals with them. And it just swims through them without ever really giving each segment, each important part in British history the attention that it deserves, where we would even know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, the more interesting things that are going on, it's completely glossed over in every sense.
One of the examples is that they do touch on what happened with the Falkland Islands.
Yeah,
and at that point I was like, okay, good, they're getting into some of the meat of this stuff, and yet it's played in such a fast and loose way. It's almost like her saying, "We must go to war because those are islands, and goddamn it, those goddamn Spaniards can't have it." And it's
This is Sparta.
Yeah,
we're not taking
then,
it anymore.
And then, okay, now bounce on to the new thing. Now she's crazy talking to her husband. It's like, look, goddamn it, stop having this short attention span theater and stay on something. Tell a real story.
You know, if they had written it like it was like a one-woman play type of thing or something like that, where it was like actually her talking about her experiences and focusing more on that rather than even bothering with going flashbacks, I would have liked it so much more. Because, like I said, Meryl Streep is great in this. The highlights of the film are whenever she and Jim Broadbent, who plays her husband/dead husband that she's hallucinating, the scenes together they have, there's real solid chemistry between the two of them.
I can tell you the only thing I don't like about that is that Jim Broadbent does this. He plays that same role every fucking
but
year.
We love that.
I know he's good at it. I'm like,
He's
Jimmy,
goofy,
come on.
fun-loving, but with that streak of brilliance to him where he's like, I'm just going to seem goofy and off the cuff most of the times, but then I'll just hit you with that little gem of wisdom. And he's playing that character again.
If you're going to do something you're good at. And that's being a ghost.
And he's there to bounce that off of her. And it's funny because she knows he's not really there, and yet she doesn't really care either. Just kind of like, well, that was the only thing that ever really made me happy was him and my relationship with him. And I see that now in retrospect. And that's kind of where the movie goes to, I think, where it's like all that other stuff that I ever wanted to be, how important it was for me to be in charge of absolutely everything. That didn't matter compared to, in retrospect, the love. And yet, at the same time, it kind of ends on a note where like, well, no, I don't think she really got that.
To me, you know what? As much as that works as a story, I could see like the director saying, this is my angle on it. That's why it rang false to me. I was like, this felt more like the director saying this than the actual Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
And
no, you're right. Yeah.
Just like, oh, I can paint it this way. It's like, you know what? Stop that.
Yeah,
you got enough here to go from.
It's not a story that needs a lot of stylistics to it.
No.
It's like if you just straight gave us a straight biopic of Margaret Thatcher, it would have been so much more interesting than trying to dress it up in the way that they do here.
And I really hate that they kind of like fool you in a way, because as soon as you think, okay, yeah, this is going to be a biopic, because they introduce you to an actress who's playing like the younger version of her.
Right.
Like as soon as she's like getting into all this,
into politics.
She's getting into politics. Yeah, she's going to a good school. That's how it leads her into getting into
Alexandra Roach, whatever that is.
Which it's like she did a job playing the teenager Margaret
She
Thatcher.
did.
But the thing is that that story right there could have been really fascinating, just to see like all the hell that she had to go through to get in that position, especially when it's just dominated by men. How she handles that power, and how and I hated it how they're just like, all right, here's a little snippets, but we're off.
You know what? Yeah, you're right, because the scenes with her I thought were the ones that worked the best. Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what? As much as I want to see Meryl Streep do this, I'm enjoying this story with this other actress playing the young her.
And the flashback sequences.
Yeah, the flashbacks coming from her humble beginnings, how she got into this.
I agree with you completely just specifically in the flashback scenes.
Yeah.
But I think that overall, what I enjoyed the most in the movie is when it was just the older Meryl Streep tottering around dealing with her dead husband. I enjoyed that relationship. I enjoyed that, watching the two of them together on there. I thought that story was much more interesting than the things I didn't really understand because it was flashing through them so quickly.
And that's because that's like the only snippet of a story that is remotely fleshed out to where it has a beginning, middle, and end.
Where it feels human, too.
Yeah.
Where you're actually dealing with a person having to look back on the regrets of life, the things done, the things not done, dealing with senile dementia. I mean, all those things, and the people around her having to deal with her being that way, especially someone who is one of the most important figureheads in British modern history, and everyone having to laugh off when she starts to act a little crazy.
And the thing about that is her being who she is or who she was.
Yeah.
I thought the people were treating her, they were a little bit more condescending than I think they would be in real life.
You're right about that. Yeah,
they were treating like, oh, like just doddering old woman. It's like, hey, she ran this country for years.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you would have more respect.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. But like I said, that was the only part of the story that I connected with, though.
Sure.
I wish I could. It's another one of those films. It's like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have liked it more. But then again, at least on this one, most of the critics kind of came down the same way we did on this. Like, there's just not much meat there. I feel like I didn't learn anything anything about Britain during the Thatcher years,
Right.
except that at points they liked her and at points they hated her. And I was totally unclear.
What was the switch? Yeah.
Like, you guys are real assholes, all right?
These are a bunch
Pick a
of,
lane.
bunch of fickle limeys.
Die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Seriously, she should have become Batgirl. Should have been
well
better.
said.
Meryl Streep could play Batgirl still.
She can play anybody.
Yeah, she could.
She can play 30. She can play Curly from Three Stooges if she wanted to.
Seriously, we need you to be 30 years younger than you are, and turn around, and she would be. She's that good of an actress. She'd be like, "Holy shit! What'd you do with Meryl Streep? You're just a 16-year-old girl." It's like, no, I'm Meryl Streep.
She would be the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those where, man, I guess I'm gonna go with a low rental again. I mean, there's so much of it that makes me angry enough to almost want to give it some old bullshit. But then you got Meryl Streep, who's so good, and the actress who plays the young Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, Alexander Roach.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's funny. We didn't mention some of the other, like, you see appearances by Anthony Head, and who looks exactly the same as he always did. That guy
Right.
just doesn't age anymore, apparently. And Richard E. Grant, who decidedly has aged.
Oh, for sure.
You're like, wow, holy shit. What happened?
hey man, he made Spice World. That did it for him.
Somebody found that portrait in his attic, and that just put an end to that. But there's lots of little good performances of people who aren't on there anywhere near as long as you want them to be, because they're, like I said, they're usually in those flashback bits where you're like, this sure would be interesting if it was fleshed out at all. But unlike you, I really did connect with the modern day stuff in there. I was super enjoying those parts, and her performance is so good all the way throughout, as is Alexander Roach as the young Margaret Thatcher, that I'm actually going to give it a high rental. I do recommend seeing it, but it's not a run out and see it type of thing. Yeah. I mean, it's Streep giving another great performance that alone made the film enjoyable to me on that level.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. The performance is amazing. I did like the teenage Margaret Thatcher. I thought there was a little bit that was interesting there, and it was enough to where it made me want to go and use the fuck out of Wikipedia. So
Right.
I mean, that has to count for something. But you're absolutely right. The one really interesting thing is her dealing with her dead husband, which I really loved. Honestly, yeah, that could have been a story on its own, and it would have made for a really interesting film, a kind of out of the box film, as far as somebody like that's so high profile like Margaret Thatcher. Like that would have been ballsy to do. But yeah, I'm just gonna give it a rental because
it's
if
such a
you rent it,
shame.
you dig it. Yeah.
Such a waste of resources.
I know.
It's almost like it's actually Margaret Thatcher made the film.
Shut up.
Just say it.